السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. New systems kind of getting used to. Today is the 14th of Rabi al-Thani, and this, as we mentioned before, is the date or the month in which we celebrate Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani, rahmatullah alayh. In order to understand him, because a lot of people, we talk about him and we talk about the miracles and this, but to really understand his status, his position, we have to understand the concept of Wilyat, or the friendship of Allah. Wilayah and Nabuwa go hand in hand. So, but there is a difference. Prophethood is Fadl Ikhtisasi. It is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives for no reason. And this is the issue that Shaitan had with Adam alayhi salam. Shaitan had done so much, and Adam alayhi salam has not even taken his first breath. And the angels are ordered to prostrate to him. Every Nabi is a Wali, but not every Wali is Nabi. In the situation of Wilayah, or the friendship of Allah, this is something that either he can give freely, Fadl Ikhtisasi, or Fadl Jazai, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in lieu of someone doing something. No Wali is Jahil. It's an important concept to understand. Even in this world, we don't want to befriend ignorant people. Those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala befriends, either they have the knowledge before they're given the friendship, or they are given the knowledge along with the friendship. When we look at, this concept of friendship, Surah Fatiha, right at the beginning, what do we ask for? Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. We're asking for the straight way. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for our benefit, defines that path. He doesn't just leave it out there, okay? Follow the straight path. Everybody thinks the straight path is something different. He defines it. Sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. So it's also interesting how he defines it. He defines the straight path as the path of those who have earned his favor. So he defines his path through the connection with his friends. You know, Wali is someone who is connected to the Nabi. So if you look at Wilayat, every Wali is connected to the Nabi of his time. And every Nabi is connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this, of course, is obvious even in the Quran, from the Quran. وَإِذَا خَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ. Surah Al-Imran, verse number 81, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the covenant that he took from the prophets. Who was that covenant about, or in relationship to? وَإِذَا خَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَإِذَا خَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ من آتيتكم من كتاب وحكمة ثم جاءكم رسول مصدق لما. So this Rasul is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the mithaq is taken in relation to him. So every Nabi is connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every Nabi came and told his followers what? They told them about the oneness of Allah. They also told them about the coming of Dajjal, the fitna of Dajjal. But they also told them about the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether by name or by his various names or by his characteristics. But they all told them about the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so every Nabi is connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every Wali is also connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines his path, this straight path, as the one upon whom, that path of those upon who have earned his favor. But he also tells us who earned his favor. He talks about Nabiyyin, Siddiqeen, Shuhada, Salihin. وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. So the prophets, the truthful, the Siddiq, the martyrs, Shuhada, and the righteous, Salihin. He also, when he defines the path, anything other than the path of those who are his friends is not Sirat al-Mustaqim. And this is why after he says, أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, he says, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Not the path of those who have earned his wrath, or who have gone astray. It's interesting when you define something, like if I define, like what is considered beautiful. And I say, okay, these are the characteristics of beauty. So then the characteristics of anything that's against those characteristics automatically becomes not beautiful. So if it's not the path of the ones who have earned Allah's favors, then it's not Sirat al-Mustaqim. So in order to follow Sirat al-Mustaqim, we have to connect ourselves with the ones who are connected to Allah. And these are the friends of Allah. It's interesting when we look at this, the various surahs in the Quran. Every surah is connected to the one after it, also connected to the one before it. Of course, Surah Fatiha is the opening, so there is nothing before it. But we have, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his path, about the straight path, now several questions arise. So he makes those definitions in the following surah. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. And this is the book in which there is no doubt. هدى للمتقين. It is a guide to those who are muttaqi, those who have taqwa. So the interesting thing here is, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is that book in which there is no doubt. Why? Because it is a guide to those who have taqwa. And as we've talked about so many times, if you look at all of the practices in Islam, whether it's fasting or praying or anything else, what is the purpose of all of these actions? It is to attain taqwa. We all, when Ramadan comes around, we all talk about this. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Why are we ordered to fast? So that we may attain taqwa. When we look in the Quran, taqwa, of course, the essence of taqwa is the fear of Allah. Various places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about fearing Allah, multiple places. And of course this fear changes as the level of the iman of the person changes. And for the lover, it is the fear of displeasing your Lord. That I don't do anything or say anything or even think anything that will displease Allah. This is the essence of taqwa. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines taqwa again in the Quran, and if you look, when he talks about, because everything, if you look at everything, you can have like a superficial level, but nothing really matters until it's in the heart. This is why even when we talk about, iman, when we talk about taking our shahada, إقرار باللسان وتصديق بالقلب. That is, that we're saying this from the tongue, but we should be testifying to it from our hearts. This is also why when Rasulullah spoke about the Khawarij, and when he talks about how well they will recite the Quran. But what does he say next? He says they will not get below their collarbones. What is the significance? From the tongue to the heart, just a short distance, but he says it won't get below their collarbones. Why? Because the heart is below the collarbones. That's what he's indicating, that this won't enter their hearts. But when we look in the Quran, he talks about, one place he talks about respecting the signs of Allah, the sha'ir of Allah. And he talks about the Buddhin, and he says that whoever does this because of the taqwa of their hearts. But the one place that he certifies it is Surah Adab. And this is where he says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَغُضُّونَ أَصْوَاتَهُمْ عِنْدَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ امْتَحَنَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ لِلتَّقْوَى لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. That indeed those who lower their voice before the messenger, or in front of the messenger, what does that mean for us? Those who humble themselves before, lowering your voice, humbling yourself before the messenger, he says these are the people whose hearts have been tested for taqwa, meaning they have been tested and passed that test of taqwa. And for them is forgiveness and a great reward. So again, all of this connects back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why, when we talk about Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullahi alayhi, his connection to Rasulullah, his physical connection to Rasulullah as far as his bloodline, and his spiritual connection to Rasulullah. Because again, when we look at wilayah, it has always been connected to Nabuwah. To the extent that the hadith where Rasulullah he talks about, which Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal he mentions in two places. One in Faza'il al-Sahaba, and the other in Manaqib Ali, karamallahu wajh, where Rasulullah says that my nur and the nur of Ali were one until 14,000 years before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. And so this has been the department of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh as far as the distribution of wilayah. And then after him, or with him, be Fatima salamullah alayha. And then after him, Imam Hassan al-Islam, and then Imam Hussein al-Islam, and then the whole lineage. And then you get a break until we finally come to Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah. And this is why he has no hesitation in saying that my foot is on the necks of all of the all the awliyaullah. Because that is the status or the maqam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him. This is also, as we've talked about before, the miracles of the awliyaullah are in line with the miracles of the Prophet. So when we look in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Sulaiman alayhi salam, and he's discussing in his court who will bring the throne of Bilqis. And the Ifrid, or this huge, strong, giant jinn, he says that I will bring it before you disperse your court. And then one who had ilmul min al-kitab, knowledge of the portion of the book. He says what? He's not jinn, he is one of the humans. He is one of the companions of Sulaiman alayhi salam. He says, I will bring it before your sight can leave you. And when Sulaiman alayhi salam looks, it's already there. The jinn said, before you disperse your court, he says, before your sight leaves you. You look and it's there. So the miracle of Asif bin Barkhia, which is what his name is, but in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give his name. He gives his characteristic to imply that anyone who attains that characteristic, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also give him this authority. But this miracle is in line with the miracles of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So when we look at the miracles of Sulaiman alayhi salam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, is basically and that we know from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are basically teleportation, moving people from here to there, moving things from one place to the other. He travels his whole kingdom in the morning and again in the afternoon. We know the story of the man who was sitting with him. And, Israel al-Islam, the angel of death, comes looking at this man. And the man says to Sulaiman al-Islam, he says, I feel fear, send me to, one narration India, another narration China. So he sends him. Again, he teleports him to where he wants to be. So the miracle of the follower of Sulaiman al-Islam is in line with the miracles of Sulaiman al-Islam. So also the miracles of the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are also in line with the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know that the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam transcend time and space. They are not limited to this world, nor limited to this time. So this is why when we hear about the miracles of Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullahi alayhi, or the miracles of any of the other awliyaullah, they're not difficult to believe. Because these are the people who have that true connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And because of that are given various authority by Allah. When we look at the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the splitting of the moon, the calling back of the sun, the night of Miraj, again transcending time and space. One concept that's also very important to understand, which inshallah we'll talk about on Sunday as well. This Sunday we'll talk about the Umrah. Even the places that Allah's beloveds walked are still alive. They are still remembered, and these also are part of our connection to the ones that Allah loves. And a simple example of that is Safa and Marwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'air Allah. The Safa and Marwa are the signs of Allah. Why are they signs of Allah? What happened? This is the place that the wife of Ibrahim al-Islam, the mother of Ismail al-Islam, Bibi Hajara, salamullah alayha, walked. And part of it she ran. She was not a prophet. Even though she is the wife of a prophet, she is the mother of a prophet. But that still does not make her a prophet. She is a friend of Allah. And an interesting aspect of this is, if you look at the part of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this, it is, Surah Baqarah. And if you look at the verses before, in that same section of Surah Baqarah, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لَمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. That do not say that those who have been slain in the way of Allah, that they are dead. They are alive, but you do not perceive it. And then after 2 verses, we get Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'air Allah. What is the connection? This is the connection, because even the places that they walk are still alive. And not only still alive, we are commanded to follow them. This is part of Sirat al-Mustaqim, that straight path. And again, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made that connection when He defined Sirat al-Mustaqim to us, that Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim, the path of those who have earned Allah's favor. So, when we look at Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah, he's born the 1st of Ramadan, 470 Hijri. He passes on the 11th of Rabi' al-Thani, 561 Hijri. He is raised by his mother. When he was 5, she sent him to go and memorize the Quran. And when he gets there, he recites 18 juz of the Quran. And when his teacher asked him how, he already knows this. He says when he was in the womb of his mother, she was hafiz of 18 juz, and she would recite them constantly. This is also a lesson for us, that the cradle of the mother is the first school of the child. This is why it's so important for the mother to be educated. And we're not talking educated in what we think educated today. Again, as we mentioned early on, none of the friends of Allah are ignorant. Either they have the knowledge before they're given the friendship, or they're given the knowledge along with the friendship. This is the knowledge we're talking about. It's interesting when we look in the Muslim world, most everybody is ignorant, unfortunately, and the women more so. Even those women these days that are going to these so-called classes, because no knowledge has any meaning unless that knowledge makes you more in awe and love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, the lover, he is not willing to hear anything against his beloved, nor does he see any faults in his beloved. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only the lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the creator of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is why he has created him without any faults, without any shortcomings. He has gifted him with all of the knowledge, and he has gifted him with all of the authority. So any knowledge that takes us away from that, any knowledge that makes us look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as something less than that, is not knowledge. This is that kind of knowledge that Shaitan had, which is why Shaitan had no issues with objecting to prostrating to Adam alayhi salam. This is why he simply said, Ana khayrum min, that I am better than him. So when we look at this, again, connection with Bibi Hajra salamullah alayha, we see many mothers who have sacrificed much for their children. And and this is what Bibi Hajra is doing. She's sacrificing for her child. And we see many mothers who, when we look at it from a worldly standpoint, have sacrificed even more for their children. And we see many mothers in the Quran that have been mentioned who sacrifice for their children. We see the mother of Musa alayhi salam. We see the mother of Isa alayhi salam. And yet we're not ordered to reenact their movements or their actions. Yet here we are ordered, whenever anyone goes, to walk the same way that she walked. What separates her walking from the walking of everybody else? What separates her actions from the actions of everybody else is that who she's doing this for. She's doing it for her child, yes, but who is that child? That child is Ismail alayhi salam. What separates him from all of the others is that from his lineage is to come Rasulullah. Again, that connection to Rasulullah is what reoccurs all the time. And without that connection, we have nothing. We have no understanding. And we have no connection to Allah. So inshallah, next week I'll kind of go over a little bit more specific about Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullahi alayhi, because it's interesting. You can tell a teacher by his students. And he had many great students. But there's one specific that most people overlook, who is Salahuddin Ayyubi. People don't know that he's also one of the students of Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to that straight path and make us follow that path of those whom he has favored. May He fill our hearts with His true love and the true love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love. May He give strength and victory to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine and wherever the Muslims are being oppressed, and give them power and strength over their oppressors. May He make us understand. Those who have not made sunnah, go ahead and make sunnah.